Hello, you are listening to Disney Travel Tales, episode number 55. This is a space where you can escape the real world and immerse yourself in someone's recent Disney trip. I'm Jenny, and today I'm talking with Bailey all about her trip with her son to visit Disneyland for the very first time and attend Oogie Boogie Bash. This is such a sweet travel tale filled with valuable information for anyone visiting Disneyland. Make sure to visit our Instagram at Disney Travel Tales to see pictures of Bailey and her son True on their vacation. If you're a new listener to the podcast, then welcome. I am so happy you are here. Go ahead and subscribe to the podcast wherever you are listening so you never miss a new episode. And then go follow us on Instagram or Facebook, just so you can see pictures of all my guests from the show. If you're enjoying the show, please leave a positive review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. This is the best and easiest way to support the show, and I really appreciate it. Okay, so let's get going. Imagine yourself walking into Oogie Boogie Bash, and let's go. So I am here today with Bailey, and she is going to tell us all about her recent trip to Disneyland, which I cannot wait to hear. How are you?
I'm doing good. How are you?
I am fabulous. So why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, who you traveled with, and your experience with Disney vacations?
Well, my name is Bailey. I am a mom of two kids. I have 5 and a 3-year-old. And this was just a vacation for me and my son. So his name is True. So just him and I went on a 4-day trip. October 5th through the 8th, and hit the parks every day and tried to navigate that with a 5-year-old and make sure that we're not melting down too much in the process of that, but having lots of fun at the same time.
That's so fabulous. I love one-on-one trips with my kids. I just started doing them, but I went with my daughter in January, and it was fabulous.
Mm-hmm.
It's
yeah,
so great.
It was like a little bit hard for my youngest daughter when she was like, why are y'all going without me? But I also wanted to make that space where we could ride all of the rides and not have to decide, well, I'm sorry, we can't do this. And just have that, us time.
Yeah, that's great. I love that. So what's your experience with Disney?
Well, I didn't go to Disney for the first time until I was in college. So it was always like, yay, get to go to Disney. And then I didn't go back for a long time after that. And then when I started to be, an adult with my own money, and then it's like, now I want to go to Disney a lot. So I've been to a Disney of some kind 3 times since December, just this year. Before that, kind of spacing them out when the kids were younger. But I like to start planning. I like a long-term plan. So like my longest one was like 18 months, and I was reading books about it and getting prepped for that. But I really love the all of the planning, the ideas, making it all kind of come together. And so that's what I love. Disney makes me feel happy whether I'm there or not even there. And that's what I love about it.
Absolutely. I feel exactly the same way. I love Disney. It's so special, and it makes you feel so special.
It does. It really does.
Yeah.
And then I love looking back on the pictures too. And I'm like, oh, that was so fun. And even, you look back on the pictures and, mostly you just take pictures of the happy stuff, right? And so all of the kind of stressful parts of the day when you're traveling with kids and things not going correctly and people getting tired, you look back at the pictures and you just don't remember any of that stuff. And it's just really a lovely memory in your head.
Yes. All that stuff is just gone.
Yeah.
That's so great. Okay, so let's just dive right into your trip. You're in Texas, so you flew to California, I'm assuming?
Yes, we did.
How was the flight and the airports and all that stuff?
Pretty easy. We left really early. So, well, not super early, but we had 8:00 flight out. But, we got there about an hour and a half before and had no problems. I would definitely tell everybody to get TSA pre-check. It is absolutely worth it. It's $80 for 5 years. Skip the line. Don't have to take your shoes off. And your kids, if they're, I think, under 10, they're for free with you. So the whole family can go, and it's just a game changer with kids not to have to do the extra stuff and wait in the line. So that also helps to not have to wake up earlier because you don't have to worry about the lines.
Yes.
But did direct flights. I'm a big fan of direct flights, so we can manage them. And we got there at 9:20 in the morning, and I surprised my son with a Lightning McQueen pickup car.
Oh
so
my
it's
gosh.
this woman, she has her private vehicle, right? But she does this, and it's completely wrapped like Lightning McQueen, has the eyeballs on the front of it and everything. And so surprised him with that as the airport pickup. Went straight to the hotel, dropped the bags, we're in the park by 10 o'clock.
Oh my gosh, that is so cool. Was he so excited?
Yes, he's like, you didn't tell me Lightning McQueen was coming.
Aw, that's so cute.
Yeah, it was a really fun part of the day.
Oh my gosh, I love that. That's awesome. Maybe I can get that information from you so I can put in the show notes for people who are visiting that might want to try that.
Absolutely, yeah. And the woman was really great. And I just like the idea of, instead of like getting there and having an Uber, right? I knew we were going to have someone to pick us up. And I liked that part is all planned out.
Yeah, it's reliable.
Reliable, exactly, yes. And then knowing who's going to pick you up and take you back. That's a nice thing.
Okay, so what hotel did y'all stay at?
So we stayed at the Disneyland Hotel. I loved it. I would absolutely, I want to check out other ones when I go there, because this was my first time at Disneyland itself.
Okay.
So everything was kind of new, and trying to figure all that out. It's so different than Disney World, wrapping, everything's different. Like making your dining reservations. They don't all drop at 60 days like they do at Disney World. And they'll just sprinkle here and there, and someone will post online, they just dropped these reservations. Hop on really fast and get them. So it's a little bit more chaotic, but we love staying at the hotel. I would like to check out other places just to have the experience, but I don't really see why I would need to go somewhere else. It's a big resort, obviously, but it's not so big where, if you stayed at a place like, I don't know, like Coronado Springs at Disney World, where you have to walk so far to go to the lobby, and everything's just takes you so long to get to where you need to go just for something simple. This was not like that. It was a compact resort, but it still had everything you need. So big pools, they had water slides, everything that you need, restaurants, to-go stuff. Goofy's Kitchen was there. So I really, really loved the hotel. Would definitely recommend it. It is expensive, though.
Yeah, it is a little bit at a higher price point, but I think people should also remember your vacation at Disneyland typically will be shorter than Disney World, so sometimes you can squeeze it in your budget.
Right. And I was going to stay off property because you can walk pretty much, there's a ton of hotels to choose from that are within walking distance. We were going to stay off property until they added the early entry hours back in. And so that I made a real quick decision to spend an extra couple $100 a night for that 30 minutes extra time in the morning. But I'm actually, not only was it really nice at the hotel, but those extra 30 minutes were game changer in planning out our day.
Oh yeah, that's so nice. Anytime you can get that extra time in the park without other people, it's like gold.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I would recommend the hotel for sure. No complaints about it.
So I've never been there, but when we go to Disney, I have been to Disneyland. I've never stayed there, but when we go, that's where I want to stay, mostly because the pool and the slides look so cool.
Yes, my son went down there about 15 times. I would come back and say, what number is that? How many times have you been down now? And yeah, he really enjoyed those, just going around and around. And they weren't so busy that you needed to wait in a line at the top, and that's what he liked. He could just go again and again and again and again. And that was really fun for him.
That is fun. So did you notice if the hotel felt crowded? Were there a lot of people there?
No, it didn't feel crowded at all. But I know it was sold out because whenever I called to request a late checkout, they're like, no, everything's completely booked. So that's not going to happen. But so I know that it was fully booked, but no, it never felt crowded. Even I was worried, if we get there at 2, are all the nice pool chairs going to be gone? But no, there was always enough space for everybody. And you never felt like you were bumping elbows with anybody.
That's nice. What type of room did y'all stay in?
So we just stayed in the standard room. So we had two queen size beds. I don't know if we got to actually choose. I think you either got like a king with a pull out, or you got the two full size beds, but you didn't get to choose like which one you were going to get, as far as I could tell.
Interesting. That's interesting. Okay. What was y'all's view from your room, since it was just a standard room?
A lovely parking lot.
Well.
A very beautiful parking lot. But that was okay.
Okay, so after y'all checked into the resort, what did y'all do?
Hey parents, do your kids listen to podcasts? Do they like solving mysteries and flexing their imaginations? Mysteries at Riddleton Elementary is a new children's mystery podcast. Your kid can join Billy Bonanza and Susie Sockington on exciting and wacky adventures as they attempt to solve mysteries around their school. Mysteries at Riddleton Elementary is available now on all podcast platforms.
Well, we dropped off bags at the hotel, went straight to, we went to Disneyland first. That was our first thing. Hopped on the monorail. That was one of the best things about the hotel, is that literally you walk out the hotel gate, and across the road, right across the street, is the security for downtown Disney. So like you walk out of your hotel and like you're there. And then about 100 yards into downtown Disney is the monorail. So it was so easy to just like bam, 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 get right where you wanted to go. So went there, and automatically I think we did Autopia. How do you say that name? The car.
I think it's Autopia.
The cars.
Yeah.
That was the first one. And my son was like, this is the best day ever.
Oh, my kids love that ride too. And it is so like smelly.
It is. I forget every time I'm around. I'm like, these are actual cars.
Yeah.
These are not like, electric things.
Yes. So how was the wait for that ride?
That one was not bad. It was about 15 minutes. Okay. So that wasn't really bad. And we were still there early enough in the day before things got really packed, but it didn't take long to get into the packness. But then I started kind of just watching Genie Plus and trying to only do those. So I tried to be strategic about what we would choose to stay in a line for, but really didn't take a line over 20 minutes. Like, I'm just not going to do that, or I'll wait till another time or have a better strategy for that. So we really were able to avoid some of the crazy lines. Like we saw the line for Haunted Mansion was at 3 hours at one point.
Oh,
and
my gosh.
We walked by and saw that, they were like out on just the regular, pathways, like telling people, okay, kind of snake the line this way and that way and round and round. It's like 3 hours. Why would anyone choose to do that?
That's crazy.
Especially because if you have Genie Plus, you can get a time and just come back later and do it then.
Oh my gosh. I don't think there's a single ride I would ever wait that long for.
No. I think it was on our first trip to Disney World. We just didn't know any better. We just showed up and what park do you want to go to today? Oh, this one has the best hours. That's what we go to. So no planning, didn't know anything. I think we waited 2 times for 2 hours for the Rock and Roller Coaster.
Oh,
that's the longest I've ever done.
That's so long.
We just kind of thought that's the way it goes. I didn't know that you could be strategic about things. Like, don't show up to the park at 11, and expect that things are going to be slow. Right. It's not going to happen.
Well, and maybe the people waiting in the line were like that. They were first timers. They didn't know, or maybe they just don't care.
Maybe they just don't care. The Haunted Mansion was done over, like they remake it for the Halloween time. So it looked pretty cool. So it's Nightmare Before Christmas themed. And so they had, Jack, and they had Oogie Boogie and everything outside. It looked like with a clock to count down to Christmas. So I think it would have been, my son was a little too scared of that. So we didn't check out the inside of it, but from the outside it looked really neat.
Okay, so after Autopia, what did y'all do?
I'm trying to think. I think we did Star Tours. We kind of just hit that whole little area around there. Then we did Buzz Lightyear. We were able to do quite a bit in that first couple of hours that we're there. And then it was about 2 o'clock, and my son's like, I'm ready to go to the hotel. I'm like, dude, we've only been here for like a few hours. But waking up at 5 a.m., like, we had already done a whole day of travel, basically, and by the time we started at the park. So with the 2-hour time change, he was kind of like, I'm done. It didn't matter if I was like, hey, you want to have ice cream and like perk up? And he was like, nope, I'm ready to go to the hotel. Like, that was our first day. So we kind of did as much as we could within that time, but it was a good like first little taste of it. Yeah. I had low expectations that first day anyways, expecting us both to be tired.
Yeah, and it was nice you planned so many park days so you didn't have that feeling like we have to stay and do everything.
Right, exactly. Yeah. I did, I wish that I would have had the understanding that he was not going to be an evening down for anything in the evening, like none of the days that he was there. He was like, I'm ready to be done pretty early, because I bought individual lightning lane for Millennium Falcon, I think, is that right one?
Smugglers
for like 7:30 that night, and so those were just a waste of money. I figured, we'll go to the hotel and he'll rest and we'll come back, and no, there was no coming back. It was time for bed, and he was up at 5 a.m. the next morning ready to go.
Oh my gosh, so funny. So being your first time at Disneyland, what was your impression of it like when you first walked in?
I was it felt a little confusing to me compared to Disney World. It felt like the Magic Kingdom, but like a mishmash of like Hollywood studios mixed in with the Magic Kingdom. So it was a little bit like confusing to me why there were some Star Wars rides over here, and then there was like a whole Star Wars section. Why aren't they all together? But I guess just that's how it worked whenever they made the expansion. Makes sense. The castle was a little like underwhelming compared. Even my son was like, Mom, that castle's so small. But then I really liked, it did feel very classic. And I appreciated that there seemed like there were more of those classic rides that aren't necessarily like those, headliners, show-stopping, like wow, with all the bells and whistles, but just like classic canoe rides and things like that. So I did appreciate, it did feel like it had more nostalgia to it.
Yeah, the first time we saw the castle too, we were all like, it's really small. But then we were like, but it was built a really long time ago, so it's probably really big back then.
Right, exactly. I kind of had that same feeling too. And then, that was their first time. Like, there wasn't anything like this. So there's only like bigger and better. I imagine they're like, oh, well, this works. It's worth the investment. Let's do it even bigger next time.
Right. Oh, for sure. So after y'all left the park and y'all went back to your resort, what did y'all do like for the rest of the day?
Well, I tried to coax him into napping, but he's not a napper. Hasn't really napped ever. So I was trying to we at least need to lay here in the dark with our eyes closed. And that only lasted about 20 minutes. And I was like, okay, we gave up on that. So I think we went down to, they have I don't think it's called a tiki bar. They have a quick service there that's at the resort. So we went down and grabbed dinner and then called it an early night. We were in bed by 7:30 that first night.
Yeah, and with the 2-hour time change, it was later for y'all, so that's totally understandable.
It definitely was, yes. Yeah. So the first night was pretty chill.
That sounds great, though. Okay, so the next day, did y'all take advantage of the early morning hours that day?
Well, so what I did, originally we were going to do, go to Disney California Adventure in the morning and then, stay for Oogie Boogie or take a break and come back. But I was like, we're going to go that evening and we paid all this money for this resort. We need to spend some time at this resort. So we slept. Well, I tried to sleep in that morning. My son wanted to wake up. And we had reservations for Goofy's Kitchen. So we went. And one of the things I really liked about Disneyland, though, is that they seem to be more flexible around the reservations on dining.
Okay.
So we had a 9:30 reservation for breakfast, but my son was up at 5. So by 7:30, he's like, I'm hungry. We need to go eat. So I went and showed up about 8. So about an hour and a half early and said, hey, it's I know you probably already booked out. And they're like, oh no, we'll get you in. So we waited a whole 5 minutes and then went and did Goofy's Kitchen. So that I really appreciated that. And they also, we had, that first day we had a 5 o'clock reservation for Oga's Cantina.
Mm-hmm.
And those are hard to get. Goofy's Kitchen is hard to get. And I was like, he's not going to make it to Oga's. Like, I really want to go. And I also would love to have a drink because it's been a little stressful.
Yeah.
So we just went over there and joined the walk-up list. And we walked right in. So I appreciated the fact that things felt more, there was more flexibility to the dining. So I appreciated that. But that second morning, we just went and ate at Goofy's Kitchen. It was really fun. The buffet was really nice. And my son was like, they have cupcakes for breakfast. They had like everything that you could want for breakfast. And I loved not having to wait in line later on to meet some of those important face characters, minus Mickey. That was the only thing I was like, he's not there. So it's Goofy, Minnie, I think Dale, and Pluto.
Okay.
So Mickey, I was like, that's weird that Mickey's not here.
Yeah, it's weird.
Yeah, but it was nice to just kind of like check those off of the list all at one place while you're eating breakfast.
Yes, I think character meals are so great to take advantage of that, especially when your kids are young and they're going to want to meet them. It's just such a great opportunity. You get to eat and meet the characters and you don't have to wait forever.
Yes, I totally agree. So we got nice and full, and then that was our pool day. So after that, we went and changed swimsuits, hit the pool. Son did the monorail slide again and again and again. I just kind of hung out, did a little hot tub time. So we were there at the pool for probably like good 2 or 3 hours, just kind of hanging out.
Was the water cold, or was it like, did they heat it?
It was, I don't think it was cold. The days also were pretty warm still there. Okay. So I think we had like high to mid 80s most of the days we were there. So like plenty warm for swimming. It didn't matter if the water was a little cool or not. But even I think it was actually pretty warm now that I'm thinking about it, like decently warm.
So like it was comfortable.
Yeah, it was definitely comfortable.
That's good to know. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So what'd y'all do after y'all swam?
After we swam, went up, showered, all that good stuff, and got ready for Oogie Boogie. So we kind of did coordinating little outfits and stuff around that. So he was, because as you know, you can dress up in full costume if you want. Like you can go all the way out for Oogie Boogie if you want. But we kind of did like a little bit of so he was Jack and I was Sally from Nightmare Before Christmas, but like Mickey Jack and Minnie Sally instead of like the full-on costume. So kind of combine those together. But we went to the park about 4 o'clock. It's probably when we got there. I didn't want to get right there at 3 because I figured that was going to be like everybody getting there as soon as you could go in. I just didn't feel like waiting in a line. Like when I've done Mickey's Very Merriest Christmas before, and they start at 5 and you wait like an hour to get in. Yes. That's just not worth it for me. But I also did a lot of reading and stuff, and that was a mixed experience. Some people said that you had to wait and it was hard to get through security. Maybe took them like 30 minutes, and then other people it was a breeze and I walked right in. But I didn't really feel like chancing it.
Yeah.
And I knew we had the whole night. So we got there about 4. We did some Cars rides. Anything that I saw was pretty much like 20 minutes or less since I didn't have Genie. So I was just kind of being strategic. And I knew we were going to have another day to come back and get anything else that we didn't get. So did a few rides, and then we did the dessert party for that. So that you could line up at 7. And I think we lined, I think it started at 7:45, 7:30, but you could line up at 7. And there was already a huge line in front of us. But what I would say if I could do it again is I would not get there early. I would go there exactly at the time because your seats are pre-assigned. There is no advantage to being the first person that they seat. I asked our server and she was like, no, these, the seats you get are the seats you get. So there's no reason where we couldn't have been wasting that time standing in line. We could have been doing park stuff.
Yeah, that's really good advice.
Yeah, so we liked that. Lots of good, sweet, sugary stuff, and you have a nice spot for the parade. If I would do it again, though, it was a fun experience, but definitely not necessary. In that, it was pretty easy. People were coming up pretty last minute, and we were in a roped off section, but the people like right next to us on the other side of the road, like they didn't get there an hour or two early, like some people do for fireworks and things like that, and they were still able to have really great spots to see.
Did the dessert party have alcohol for adults?
They did. So it came with 2 drinks.
Awesome. And so this dessert party was for parade viewing?
It was for the parade. Yes. So it's the villains parade.
Okay.
And so it has all the bad guys who come out.
Oh, fun. How was that parade?
It was really fun. So we saw there was Jack and Sally, Jafar, Ursula, Hades. What's the mom's name from Rapunzel? She was in it.
Mother Gothel.
Yes, she was there. The queen from Snow White. So basically all of the bad guys.
That's
fun. So then it was, my son got a little scared. But I think more just because he was tired than he was actually scared. And so I wouldn't say it's a scary or anything frightening in it, but the idea of it, because they have that Oogie Boogie's like voice comes over and he's like ha 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 with like the big scary sounds and things like that. But it wasn't scary at all.
Have you ever been to the Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween party at Disney World?
I have not.
Okay, so I bet they have their own like music soundtrack to that parade, but I was wondering if it was the same or different.
I don't know.
Well, that is fun. I love those Halloween parades. I've never seen the Oogie Boogie, but I have seen the Mickey's Not So Scary. They're so fun.
I know. They really are fun. Yeah. And I like the special part, like where they're walking around with the shovels and then they'll like spin them around and make the sparks. I'm like, oh, I wasn't expecting that. That was neat. Yes. And the big scary guys up on stilts kind of, I think that was really fun too.
That is really cool. Did your son like the grave diggers with the shovels, or was that scary to him?
No, he liked that part. He thought that was interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, I was, when I went to the last parade, I was by a little girl, and when they came by, they kind of startled her. Like, I think she thought they were going to come get her. I don't know, but she was younger, and she was scared.
Oh, poor thing.
I know, it was cute, but then I think one of the guys, like, smiled at her, and so, because I think he could tell she was kind of scared, but yeah. You just never know what's going to scare a kid.
You never do. No, like some things you think it's going to be totally fine, and then it's like, no, we're not going to do this.
Yeah. So what y'all do after the parade?
So after the parade, we wanted to go over to Villains Grove, I believe is the name of it. The thing is that the party starts at 6. So there's the mix-in hours for the 3. Party starts at 6. They announce it over the speakers like the party's begun. Obviously, you have your wristband. They filter everybody out. But then, so you can start doing like your character meets and all of that kind of the party events start at 6, except for Villains Grove. So Villains Grove does not start until it's completely dark. Okay. So you had like an hour and some change where it was still light, so that you can't, it's just empty. Like there's people there who are working it, but they're like not till it's completely dark. So then we hightailed it after the parade to try to get over there, but that was also everybody else's plan. Yeah. So we did not end up doing Villains Grove. We saw Bruno. We saw Mother Gothel again. She was one of them. I'm trying to think who the other characters were. I know you could meet Oogie Boogie, but we didn't stand in line for that. There was also Minnie, Daisy, and the cow. What's her name?
Clarabelle,
yeah. They were dressed as the Sanderson sisters.
Oh, cute.
And in the research I was doing, that's like the most popular one. Like people standing in line for an hour plus to be able to meet them. And I don't think that they start right when the party starts. And they won't even let people line up until 5 o'clock, because otherwise people would start lining up even before that to meet them. That's and then really they take breaks too. So sometimes people are in the line and then they take a break and then you have to sit there. And I was like, no, I think there's other things that we could check out other than that.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Yes, that's the worst, is when you're waiting for a character and right when it gets to be your turn, they're like, oh, they're going to have a break. You're like, what?
I know. It's like, can we not have them on rotation or something here? Oh, at Goofy's Kitchen, though, they were like trading out Goofies at the time. And my son is like, why is there two Goofies? Like, they were walking on opposite sides of the restaurant, so I don't think they intended to be able to see. We were just in a spot where we could see both. It's like, why are there two Goofies? I was like, I think that's just, must be his helper.
Oh my gosh, that's crazy. I've never heard of that.
I kind of thought that was a little bit of like, I feel like Disney would not have been happy if they had known that we had seen two of the same character.
I feel like y'all like saw a little Disney magic with that, because it's like one of those things like getting stuck on a ride or being evacuated, like the things people want to happen. Yeah. Yes. That's crazy. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Nuts.
But we did a few more of the trick-or-treat trails. Those were pretty simple. Like, you just kind of walk, and there's multiple times where they're, like, just giving you stuff. And it wasn't all just candy. There were snacks, like applesauce, chips, things like that were also part of that. So you did some trick-or-treating, photo opportunities. But again, he's like, hey, it's 9 o'clock. That's, like, Texas time 11. He was ready to go. Yeah.
So do they have a special fireworks show at Oogie Boogie, or like a nighttime show?
No, they don't. Okay. And on that evening, since the park closes at 6, there's not a World of Color for that either.
That's good to know. I actually did not even realize that.
Yep.
So this is a special ticketed event, and these tickets go fast. So what was like your process of buying tickets to this event?
Well, so I joined some Facebook groups who were about it, and kind of, asked on there as everybody's kind of getting ready. Oh, tickets drop tomorrow. And people were saying, oh, last year, I don't know why everybody's getting on right at there, like sitting in a queue for an hour, because last year, just wait till the next day or two and you can come back and get them. And I'm so glad I did not listen to that advice, because that was not the case this year. They were selling out. Like, I think I saw some dates going within an hour of them being released. So I was, ready to go, joined the queue, and I'm like sitting there, and it's like, you got, 30-minute estimated wait time or whatever. But I was also looking at, on the Facebook page that I was on, they had a thread on there for like, message with any issues you're having, and like kind of we'll group chat it out and try to problem solve. So people were talking about their success. They were saying when dates were going out. And they were also saying that if you are on your phone, say, I was sitting in a parking lot waiting in between things. And they're like, don't do it like Disneyland go.com or whatever that is. That's what I was on. They're like, just leave that and go through the app, and it'll take you right in. And I was a little bit worried to do that, because I didn't want to lose my space, because once you entered in through the app, it kind of kicks you out of that other queue, right? Because you can't be in two different queues signed into the same account. But it kicks you out and went right in. So I waited less than 5 minutes on that other line before I tried to give this one a go. And I did walk right in and got tickets. I was done within a few minutes.
Oh my gosh. Well, that was a good gamble.
And so I saw, it was a gamble, but I saw multiple people post it, and I was like, I'm going to take the try. And I'm really glad that I did, because I would have been sitting there for no reason. So I don't know if next year they'll figure out that was a glitch in the system, that you could kind of bypass that by doing it. But it might be worth a try. If you have two different people like trying to get it, that might be a way where you could try to cut a little bit.
Yeah, that's a really good idea. Yeah, these tickets sell so fast. Like, it's crazy. At Disney World, it is not like that. It usually takes months. I mean, there's like certain dates at Disney World that will sell out, but like any of the Disneyland parties, they sell out fast.
Wow. So I did not know that.
You have to be like really prepared to, obviously know if you're going to be there. If this is something you want to do, you can't wait. You got to just grab it.
Absolutely. And too, like, there's pressure, because it's not like, oh, if, your date sells out, you can just go another day. It's like, you might already have your hotel booked and your plane tickets, and that's your one shot. Like, I had to have my tickets that day, or we weren't going at all. Yeah.
Well, I'm glad you got to go. It sounds like it was so much fun. What was your favorite part of the party?
I would have to say the parade. That was pretty cool. I really liked, those aren't characters that you're typically going to see.
Yeah.
So I really like that you get to see that, especially like Ursula. And then they were very interactive with the crowd. So like, would look at you, give you a scary, mean face, so I really liked that part. It was a highlight of it.
Yeah, the villains are really fun whenever they come out. They are very in character.
They are, definitely. I liked it a lot.
So y'all went back to your room y'all left the party around 9? Around
9, yeah.
And just went back and got ready for bed?
Yeah, so we didn't, ideally I would have liked to stay longer, but this is also, that's just what I learned in this trip. That time change was not going to be something that and I thought it would be fine because say we're out at, a friend's house and we decide to stay out late. If there's other kids, my son will rally past bedtime and he can stay up till midnight if he's really having a fun time. So I figured it would be that same thing. We didn't have to wake up early that morning. It was a chill pool day. I tried to reserve energy. That's the whole day, just be chill so we can save it for later. But that time change was not working for him in the evenings. It was definitely a pro in the mornings because he was ready to go, no problem getting up, but then he wasn't going to be down for the evening.
Yeah, that's definitely something for people to think about because it is hard, especially for little kids.
Definitely. Yeah. Yeah. So I would have personally wanted to stay a little bit longer, get a little bit more out of that ticketed event, especially with the low waits. I really wanted to go, especially for that, seeing some of the characters, the parade, but I wanted to be able to go and do those rides back to back to back because when I went to a ticketed the Christmas event at Disney World, I loved that. I loved just walking on to rides and being able to do those ones that are going to be popular on your regular day and just kind of get those done with. So fortunately didn't get to do that, but that was my original strategy.
Yeah. Maybe next time.
Maybe next time. Maybe we'll go when he's a little bit older and give it another go.
There you go. Okay, so what did you do on your next day?
Our next day was back to Disneyland. And that morning we did take advantage of early entry. So I did researching, scouring Facebook groups, seeing what people's strategies were around that. And I listened and they were right. So happy to share how that worked out. It does take a little bit more waiting on the front end so that you can be there because you only get 30 minutes, right? So every minute pretty much counts, right? Yes. If you lose 3 minutes, that's 10% of the time. It's gone right there.
Yep.
So I got up at 5 in the morning, started getting dressed. Time change worked to our advantage. In that situation, we kind of grabbed, I think we ate the applesauce and the stuff that we had gotten from Oogie Boogie the night before and started lining up. So like I said, at Disneyland Hotel, right across the street is where the security is for downtown Disney. So literally you walk out of the hotel and then there's a line of people just sitting on the curb waiting. So we went down about 6:45 and we started, was it 6:45? Yeah, 6:45. Yeah, right in there. And we started waiting. So the line was pretty long, just people sitting there. I was expecting there to be some people, but I didn't expect to have to walk down the street quite as far as we did. But we got in, they started letting people go through security about 7:15-ish, I would say, maybe somewhere in there. So you didn't have to wait a terribly long time. But it was really everybody was ready to go, you felt like you're at the beginning of the starting line. So they let us through security and we walked right over, hopped on the monorail. We were the first monorail of the day. Nice. Drops you off right in Fantasyland on the dot at 7:30 is when they let you out. So it's very much they even stopped the monorail at one point for a minute, so that they could basically kind of time it out so that you're not there a minute early or a minute late.
Wow.
So hopped out and it was neat to see the park completely empty.
Yes.
And I liked Fantasyland was what we wanted to do. So I love that it popped us right in the middle. There wasn't, going through gates and walking all the way across the park to get where we needed to go. You're right there. Because I wanted to be able to knock out a lot of those little kid kind of rides that a lot of them don't have Genie Plus for. So that was important to me to kind of prioritize those that morning. I know other people will go to Rise of the Resistance. That's an important one for people to get done. But we went, I think we did Mr. Toad's Wild Ride, Snow White, and one more. one more in that little area. And then by that time it was about 7:50. So we knocked out like 4 rides within 20 minutes. There was no wait. It was just by the time you like walk through all the zigzag back and forth and ride the ride took about that long. And about 7:50 we went over to Pinocchio because people were queuing for that one. So even though it's early entry, like there was already a 20-minute wait at that point. But we wanted to get in the line before rope drop happened so that we weren't going to be behind all those people who were going to walk over there. And so as we're waiting in line, I'm looking at my phone and the wait time goes from 20 minutes to like 30, 50, 60 minutes as we're like waiting. So as soon as rope drop happened, that line like tripled immediately.
Oh my gosh. That's so crazy. Y'all did so much in such a short amount of time. It
was awesome.
That's
definitely
shocking.
Awesome. And then you just felt like you were a step ahead of everybody that morning. You're like, by the time that that part is starting to get where everybody's coming to Fantasyland in the morning, you're on to the next thing. So it was really nice to just be like, oh, we're done with that one. I think we waited a little bit for Dumbo, but that was like a 15-minute wait after the park opened. Then we went to It's a Small World, and I have a picture with me and my son, and we're the only ones on our boat, and the 3 boats behind us are empty. So
oh my gosh.
It was literally like there was nobody on there, even though the park had already, I think we went around 9 o'clock, and still no one had gone over there to It's a Small World.
Wow, that's so cool. What a cool experience.
Yeah, I liked that a lot for sure. And I liked It's a Small World at Disneyland a lot better than the Disney World one. I enjoyed it more. I normally will skip the Disney World one. I've, done it enough to have that song stuck in my head, but wanted to give this one a try. But I liked how the characters were like mixed in there with the doll, with the people. So that was kind of cool to look out for those things.
Yeah. And I mean, It's a Small World, I feel like they just put it at Disney World because it was one of Walt's like original rides and he loved it and stuff. But just, it's like there's nothing special about it. Whereas Disneyland, it's like a huge attraction. Like it's so cool looking from the outside, and
it's very pretty from the outside, and even inside, I thought it was pretty. Like there was a lot more sparkle.
Yeah,
to it.
It's not just like the one at Disney World. We still ride it, but it's kind of musty. I don't know. Like
definitely,
it doesn't feel special.
I agree. Yeah.
Well, that is so fun.
Yeah. And so at that point, we started kind of getting a little hungry. I definitely did take advantage of like mobile ordering more on this trip. Was the first time I really like got into that. Just because I didn't, I was trying to maximize, like stay ahead of the crowds.
Yeah.
I had also seen that we wanted to eat at the Alien Pizza Planet. Like that seemed like an important place for us to eat. Definitely my son's into Buzz Lightyear, all of that stuff. And I'd seen online that those ones can kind of get booked up. So we did an early lunch at like 10, but we were so hungry because, we'd been going for so long at that point. But it was nice to go get pizza, go sit inside. And it really, by the time we were leaving there at like 10:30, like most of the tables started filling up at that point. So like I did feel like we were just like one step ahead of like where the crowds were going.
That's so nice. So what did you think about the food there?
It was pretty good. Like I can't complain. I mean, it's standard pizza, but pizza's pizza. It was good.
Good. So what y'all do after lunch?
After lunch, so we did a couple of Genie things in the morning, but that's when I kind of started to be more like strategic about, looking at wait times, trying to buy. And I also was trying to use a hack that I had seen people talk about. The fact that a lot of rides like at Disneyland and Disney California Adventure, like they break down a lot more. And that happens pretty regularly. And if you happen to have a Genie Plus ride scheduled during that time, you get the multi-experience pass to go use at other rides, which are like, and even ones that are not on Genie Plus, normally ones that you wouldn't be able to skip through the front of the line on. They have them as part of that multi-experience pass. And so we had no interest in riding Big Thunder Mountain. My son wasn't going to do it, but I had seen that it was being glitchy. And so I was like, you know what? We've got a little time. We don't have to start using, I can gamble and lose this pass if I have to. But it worked out and it clicked over into a multi. And I did that twice for that ride to be able to like go to whatever we wanted to.
That's a great tip. Wow.
Yes. Yeah. So if you're it's a little bit of a gamble,
Yeah.
but we'd already done so much. It felt like it was going to be pay off, and it did.
That's great. Wow.
Mm-hmm.
So what other rides did y'all do?
We went back to do Star Tours again. My son really liked that, and he wanted to build a lightsaber.
Mm-hmm.
So we went and built the lightsaber. I did have a reservation originally when like the 60-day mark out to do the Savi's workshop, the whole big thing.
Yes.
But I mean, I've seen people talk about how wonderful it was, but I mean, he likes Star Wars, but not super into Star Wars. Mm-hmm. So paying the $40 for the lightsaber seemed a lot better than the $200 lightsaber.
And Savi's is kind of, I mean, he probably would have thought it was cool, but it's really, I mean, it is very expensive, and that's not it's not really a toy. It's kind of like a keepsake, but I think older kids would appreciate it. Like they appreciate the experience. Yeah. Yeah.
I think when he's older, then we'll go and we'll have that whole thing. But he was like, oh my gosh, I get to build a lightsaber. And that's all he wanted. And then he'd also the whole day before, he'd been like, are we going to go back to ride Star Tours? I'm like, you really loved it that much? He's like, no, I mean, I liked it, but I want to go and get the minifigs. He wanted these little Star Wars toys that he'd seen in the gift shop on the way out. And that's why he wanted to go back and do that ride, so he could get those specific toys to play with them.
That is funny.
Yeah, so he liked that. And we went back. We did all the Star Wars stuff. I really liked Smuggler's Run. That was so fun. We got to be the pilots, and I was surprised by the fact that we actually were like, I thought it was going to be pretending like you had control over it, but you really did.
Yeah.
And so, my son is 5, and I'm like, oh, we're crashing a lot, but that's okay.
That's fun. Did he like that?
He did. He really enjoyed it. I could look over his face, and he was really concentrating. Like he was trying to do his best. I think one of us got to do the up and down, and he, the other one did the right to left. But he was really trying to focus on it.
That's so cute.
Yes, definitely. And then Rise of the Resistance. Like, I'm not a Star Wars fan. I just, I like rides of any kind. So if it's going to be immersive, if it's like world building, I'm going to be down for it no matter what it is. But that ride blew me away.
It's amazing.
I can only imagine if someone's into Star Wars and they do that ride, it would be like the best thing ever. I think it's probably the best ride I've ever been on.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. Yeah.
Yes. And I can't imagine how big that is. I would like to look at like an aerial view of how big that ride, because it just kept going and going and giant inside of there. So it must take up a huge amount of space that you can't see.
Oh yeah, because you can't see it at all from when you're in the land. And I've only done the Rise of the Resistance at Disney World, but it's the same. But yeah, and what we loved when we did it was, you're like, think you're in line, but that's like all part of the ride. Like the whole thing, it was very cool.
Very immersive. Yes. I love when you feel like you're in it, and they definitely did an amazing job with that.
They did. That's a really great ride. Yeah, and I think anyone would like it. You don't have to be a Star Wars fan at all.
Oh, absolutely not. Yeah, and definitely worth. That one had, I think, an hour and a half posted wait when we went to it. But we bought the individual lightning lane. Yeah. Well worth the $32 or whatever it was for that to be able. And I would have done it again if I could have.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's fun.
Yeah. So finished out Star Wars. Kind of made our way back around. Did the Disneyland pictures. Have to go in front of the castle. The giant pumpkin at the front of the park. Kind of just tried to round out anything that we had missed and wanted to go back to.
That sounds like such a fun day.
But an early one, too. By the time it was like 2:00, we had pretty much done everything that we wanted to do and headed back to the hotel.
Yeah, I think Disneyland's great, too, when you have younger kids, because it's very manageable. I mean, first of all, the resorts, even the ones that aren't Disney resorts, they're right there.
Right.
So you don't have to deal with all the transportation, and the parks are smaller, so they're easier for kids to walk around.
Definitely.
More compact, so yeah. It's a great
I really liked that a lot. We did have tickets, or I guess it was to Tomorrowland Terrace for the fireworks show. But Mr. True was not up for that. And it was too late to cancel. That takes a 2-day prior cancellation.
Oh.
So I was out $120 for something we never went to. And that was a bummer.
That is a bummer, but that's also good to know for people listening.
Yes. Yeah. If you are at all where is my kid going to be able to make it to, you could go at 7:30 for it. And then like you eat. And I think from what I read, it was a come and go. Like you didn't have to stay there till the fireworks. Like you come and eat, but you have that spot for the rest of the evening.
Oh, that's
the fireworks
nice.
weren't until 9:30, I believe 9:30 or 10, one of those. So yeah, there's no way he would have been able to that. So if your kids, you're like, can they stay? Maybe that might not be one that you want to gamble on because you can't get your money out of it if you can't make it.
For sure. That's a really good tip. So what'd y'all do when y'all went back to the resort?
Tried to nap again, tried that, didn't work out. So we swam for a little bit later that evening and called it an early night.
That's so great that y'all took advantage of the pool.
Yeah, I really wanted to because that's part of, you're paying all this money, you need to use it.
Yes, if you're going to pay for one of those resorts, you might as well do everything you can there instead of just sleep.
Exactly.
Yes.
Yeah, and I liked it too. They had like you could eat at the pool, so they had like servers who came around, order drinks, order food. So that was really nice too, because especially if you're traveling with just you and a child, trying to get them out of the pool, like, okay, let's go over here and order food and come back. Don't lose our spot. Don't worry about stuff, people like taking something that you're trying to reserve your chair with. So that was really nice that I could stay eyes on him and still get stuff to eat and drink.
Yes, that is really great. I meant to ask you this at the beginning, but I didn't. Did y'all have a park hopper ticket or just a regular ticket?
Just regular tickets.
Okay.
Yeah. Are you a big park hopper fan?
So I do. I am a park hopper fan only because I'm familiar with the parks enough to park hop. But yeah, and when I always tell people, if it is your first trip to any park, do not get a park hopper. Just spend the day at the park because there's so much to do in one park. You don't need to go back and forth. But if you've been before, especially at Disneyland, the park hopper is really nice to have.
Because you can just walk right across. Just walk across the entryway, like just boop, right there. That's so convenient.
And especially with Genie Plus, if you have Genie Plus, you can look, and if there's rides available on the other side, you can go over there. So
definitely, yeah, that's really cool. One of the differences about Genie Plus too, that I'm sure you're aware of, but is that, so last time I went to Disney World was in April, and we did the same thing, early flight, tried to get there early, go straight to the park. So that one, we didn't even drop our luggage. We literally went from the airport to there, had our bags, stowed it, which is funny. You're going through security and you have to open your big old carry-on bag, and they're going through everything because they have to open everything. So that was a little funny. But I was sitting in the airport in Austin, and I was booking Genie Plus rides for later in the day. Like I was starting to stack. Yeah. But at Disneyland, you cannot start using Genie Plus until you are in the park. It knows that you have entered the park, then you can begin using it.
I didn't even know that.
Yep. But we also, if you're early entry though, you can start using it. It wasn't that you couldn't sign up for like a 7:30 ride or anything, but you could start booking since you were in the park already.
So you just book for when the park opens.
Basically, yeah. But in that morning, there's not a whole lot of, you don't really need to use it. So I was kind of trying to think about, what some of them weren't listed that we'd want to do until they were showing at 9 a.m. and we don't need to use it at 9 a.m. We have other stuff to do. So you kind of have to keep an eye on and kind of figure out if you're going to go ahead and burn that time or you're going to go ahead and grab it and go do it.
Yeah. So did you feel comfortable using Genie Plus at Disneyland?
Definitely, yeah. Especially because I was familiar with it from using it a couple of times before at Disney World. It felt very similar, like the same idea.
That's good to know. Did you feel like times were more available at Disneyland than at Disney World?
I don't know that I would say one was more available or not than the other one. I will say that I was surprised so when I was doing all my research, I didn't realize that Star Tours had a Genie Plus thing. And I even read on the website, the day before, I was confirming, especially when I was going to do early entry, I was going to try to do the rides that are not on Genie Plus. So I was trying to keep an idea of, prioritizing those. but Star Tours was on it. So I was surprised that there was actually more options than I was expecting.
Okay.
Because the list of them is very short listed, but it seemed like there was actually quite a lot to choose from.
That's interesting too. Huh.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder what the deal is with that. Who knows?
Don't know. Yeah, but definitely we really liked it. I wish Nemo would have had that. It's so interesting. I'm always curious, like, how do they choose which ones to give it to and which ones they don't? I wish you could just do them for all of the rides. That would be amazing.
So I think I have read that part of the decision making was if they had room to put an extra, like a lightning lane.
Okay.
So maybe Nemo never had a fast pass, and so they didn't have that extra line.
I see. That would make sense.
Yeah. And especially at Disneyland, it is so small and they're limited on space. It's not like they could just add a line.
That totally makes sense. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I really did enjoy Nemo, though. It was worth waiting the 20 minutes in line for that.
Yeah, that's cute.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so let's talk about your next park day. Did y'all go to the park this next day?
We did, yes. Mm-hmm. So we had a 5 p.m. flight out of LAX. So we were like, we're going to get a whole park day. And basically that was the plan. So this time we got down to wait for security about 6:30. They opened up security at 7 that day. So we were more towards the front of the line. There was maybe only 6 or 7 little groups of people in front of us for security that day. Went through pretty fast, and I was booking it at that point because, like, on our first day, we just walked right to the monorail. And so there wasn't this whole space of downtown Disney to have to, like, traverse across. But I'm so glad that I brought a stroller, even though my son's 5, because he's just not going to move at that pace that I'm going to want him to move at certain times. And that was especially nice to get in a stroller. We're going. I would also highly advise that if you have a stroller, buy a balloon. The first day we did not have the balloon, and we would be like, well, where did we park our stroller? And, you know, sometimes they move them and rearrange them. And of course we had like a standard black stroller that looks like everybody else's. For Oogie Boogie, I had some like purple lights on it so that we could find it. But during the day, you can't see those lights. So getting the balloon was like, oh, there's our stroller. There's our stroller. We could kind of keep an eye on it. And I definitely would say get a balloon if you have a stroller.
That's so smart. Oh my gosh, that's so smart.
But I was booking it. There was even parts where I know that you're not supposed to run, but I might have done a little bit of running while I was pushing the stroller. But we were the second in line. So it was really cool to be able to be like, we can see through the gates, like see all the emptiness inside there. Oh, we did Disney's California Adventure, by the way. Okay. That day, and it was really cool. And the people in front of us had been there and had been doing this for like 4 or 5 mornings ahead. So it was nice to ask them any questions like, well, where would you go first and how would you prioritize? And I think a lot of people went to Web Slingers was a popular one to go, because in Disneyland for those early entry, there's only select rides open. Not everything is open, not the whole park, but they are grouped together better. So the ones that are going to be open are going to be more in the same place. At California Adventure, they were kind of like, here's one over here, one on this part of the park, pretty more spread out. So you wouldn't easily be able to go bang, 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 bang like we did with the first morning. You kind of had to say, well, what's my 1 or 2? And I'm going to kind of run across the park to get those. So a lot of people were saying they were going to go straight for Web Slingers and then Guardians of the Galaxy. Those seemed like the 2 popular ones that people were going to try to get over to. My son's not big enough for Guardian of the Galaxy. I don't think that would be his cup of tea. But we went to Web Slingers and we were the first people. Like, we were the first people on the ride. So it was really awesome to watch, like, Avengers Campus. I have a picture of my son. He's the only person standing there in the middle of it with his arms up, completely empty. Also, we did Web Slingers first, which my son really loved. He loves Spider-Man. I was surprised by how tired my arms were at the end of that from all of because for people who haven't been on it before, you use your arms kind of like Spider-Man, and it shows the things shooting out of your arm, blasting these like robotic spiders that are overtaking this, I don't know, kind of facility, I guess. And you're trying to like shoot as many as you can. Your arms just like bam, 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 bam. So I was surprised by how tired my arms were at the end of that, but it was a really fun ride. We liked that one.
Yeah, it sounds so fun. I can't wait to ride it one day.
Oh, you haven't been on it yet?
No.
Oh yeah, it's fun. I definitely would do it. That one does have an individual lightning lane, so I think that it would be worth it if you don't do it right in the morning.
Yeah.
We walked by later that afternoon, and it had over like a 80-minute wait, I believe, kind of. But that was midday. That's like parks packed.
Yeah.
But definitely, I think it'd be worth it.
Yeah, it looks really fun.
So we did that, and then we went over to, it's kind of a little bit of a longer ride too. So it takes up that time in the morning, like I said, that 30 minutes, it goes by really fast because you're trying to maximize it, of course. But we went over to Cars Land and got all the pictures of him in empty Cars Land. So he's in front of Flo's Cafe, in front of Luigi's, and just him. And I was like, that was a really cool thing to be able to look at some of the stuff without people in front of you, and to have those pictures, that was a really cool thing. We went to do, is the Cars Racers. I'm trying to think of the name
Radiator
of it.
Springs Racers?
Yes, that's it. Yeah. So we got there about 7:50, and there was already like a queue, like a 20-minute wait at that point. So it seemed like people pretty much prioritized like what they were going to go do, they were going to go do. And that one didn't open until 8. So we were in line for it to open. And then, of course, we've been standing there. We used up the rest of our early entry times waiting in that line. So hopefully we could do that and move on. And they say, oh, by the way, this ride's not probably going to open till about 8:15 or 8:20. So I'm like, that's so much time. That's rope drop time. That's time where you really want to be moving from one thing to the next to get there, stay that step ahead of the crowd. So that was a little bit frustrating, but it was a really fun ride. It was really fun. I didn't expect that there was going to be, it's like a 2-part ride. So, you get to go and you see the town and you see the characters, it moves you through, and then you actually get to race at the end. So I like that it was both of those things.
Yeah, that ride's really fun. It was so much more fun than we thought it was going to be when we rode it.
I absolutely agree. Yes. It was like that. There's one little drop part, and my son was like, oh, that was scary. But it was nothing too scary. Like, I think younger kids could do it. I did see some people with like a questionably right on the line size child that had to do a little neck stretching to maybe even touch it. And I was like, I don't know if little ones would want to do that. So if they're not tall enough, then it might just say, nah, we'll skip it.
But he liked it.
Yeah, he really liked it, definitely. And he's been a Cars fan. Like, his second birthday was Cars thing. We used to watch that one on repeat. I bet I could tell you the lines of that movie. So it was cool for him to get to do all that.
Oh, yeah. I bet he loved Cars Land. Was he just like amazed by it?
Definitely really liked it for sure. Yes. And so then after that, we went and did Luigi's. And it's just kind of cars, and they kind of do a little dance. They're all in motion with one another. And so it's just a fun little quick ride. And we only waited like 15 minutes for it, so that's fine. But we went to Cozy Cone and got a churro because the lines for churros everywhere were always so long. I was like, oh my God, this is like, it makes me feel like I have to have this churro because people are willing to wait 30 minutes in line for it. So but I mobile ordered. And we got there probably by 9 to do that. And at that point, they had already turned it over to only mobile ordering. So I had read ahead of time that one is usually only mobile ordering. So that's just a good tip for people that if you're wanting something from Cozy Cone, it's only going to be mobile ordering. And it might be something that you need to do earlier in your day rather than later, or keep an eye out for a spot. Yeah. Because it might be too late.
Yep. Oh, yeah.
But we got the churro, and it was good.
I was going to ask, did you like it? Because they were like famous for their churros.
Yeah, I actually did. Yeah. And my son was like, what is that? And I was like, trying to explain to him. I'm kind of like, it's a cinnamon roll type flavor, but like a cinnamon donut vibe to it.
But a stick.
Yeah. But I only bought one because I kind of thought he wasn't going to like it. And so he ended up eating over half of it. You know how that goes.
Yes, absolutely.
And at that point, there was like only 2 or 3 people in line to meet Lightning. So we saw Mater, and just as we were getting in line, they switched out for Lightning, which was even better. Yeah. So that was really nice to not wait in a super long line to do that too.
That's really fun.
And he talks to you. He's interactive. Eyes move, mouth moves. That's really fun.
That's cute. Yeah. That's so
Yeah.
cool.
So I think that they switch those guys out back and forth every 30 minutes. They take turns.
Good to know. Good to know.
Yeah. So we wrapped that part. We did all the stuff we wanted to do there. And I'm trying to think where we went next. At that point, I started looking more into like the Genie stuff and what I was wanting to do. So when we left Cars Land, we kind of just made our way around like the pier. Just kind of what was short lines, what could I kind of do for Genie, try to map out, okay, you know, we might get around to over there to Goofy's on the other side of the, I guess not a pond, what do we call that?
Yeah, I don't know.
the water.
The water area. Yeah.
Whatever that is. So I was like, it might take us about an hour. So try to like space out Genie stuff so we have, you know, not have to go zigzag back and forth. And we really didn't have to that day. It worked out pretty nicely. Again, really low weights for most everything, still early in the morning, and walked around and did it all. He was a little bit hesitate, like a little bit like Goofy's looks like a roller coaster, Mom. Is it going to be a roller coaster? Is it going to be scary? I'm like, no, look, there's like a little girl going, like she's littler than you, you know, it's not going to be scary. And I was like, oh, this is fine. We're on it. He's having fun. It's just mostly turning. And then there is a really there's a big drop in it that both of us weren't expecting. He's like, Mom, you said it wasn't going to be scary, but I think he liked it and he probably would have done it again. So not too scary for a 5-year-old.
That's good. Yeah, I've actually heard adults, they don't like that ride. It like makes them sick.
It is kind of jerky. It really kind of zips you back and forth pretty quickly.
That's funny. So what other ones did y'all do?
We did Jessie's, like the her thing.
Jessie's round.
The carousel. Jessie's, that one. We did the other Toy Story Mania, I believe. What else did we do? We did the Whirlwind of Emotions, or what's it called, from Inside Out.
Yes.
That one.
I don't know the name, but I know which one you're talking about. Yeah,
we did that one. He was not about the Ferris wheel. Like that that is a big Ferris wheel. So I definitely can see, I would have been a little bit like, oh, I don't know if I want to do that. But it was a 5-minute wait. And I was like, dude, we could just hop on and do it. But he was like, no, not going to happen.
Yes.
Incredicoasters was broken down for probably the first 2 hours. He wasn't tall enough to do that one, and that I knew he wouldn't do it even if he could. But that is one that breaks down a lot. So if people are going to try to, you know, in that morning time, try to use that Genie hack to get a multi pass, that would be a good one to use it on.
That's really smart.
Yeah, get the one for like 9 a.m. It's going to be early in the morning that you're not planning to use anyways, and you can use it. I love it because you can use it at any time of the day for whatever you want, or for not everything, but some of them. So that would be one that I would do that on.
Yeah, that's really nice.
Yeah, definitely. So basically anything that he was tall enough for, we did it.
That sounds so fun. Did y'all? So which park did y'all like better, Disneyland Park or California Adventure?
I think I liked California Adventure. I liked like the Avengers campus. That was super fun. Doing web slingers was really fun. Getting to see Spider-Man was really fun. So yeah, I was watching the times for when Spider-Man was going to do his little show. And it just kind of happened to work out that we were in the area at that time. I don't know that I would have like wasted like 30 minutes trying to get a good spot for it or anything, because it's very fast.
Yeah.
It takes all of 2 minutes for the whole thing. And once Spider-Man gets done, they hustle him out of there very quickly. The cast members come around him as a force field, and he is doing a little bit of interaction, but they are moving him along the whole time.
Oh, that's so interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. But my son was like, is that the real Spider-Man? I was like, of course. Right. And then he's like, but then why does he have that rope on him? I was like, you can't do everything. Got to be safe. What if he falls on somebody? So trying to keep that magic alive when they're looking for those little details where things don't quite line up. But
kids are so funny, especially little boys. They notice everything.
Right. Especially about things that they're really interested in.
Yeah.
He's really interested in Spider-Man, so he's going to know those details when they're not correct.
It's so funny to me, but I think it's really cool too.
Yeah, it really is.
So what time did y'all leave the park to go to the airport?
We left at 2:30, I believe. And it really was just like that was the time of day that we had naturally been wrapping up from the other parks. It really we ended up paying for a individual lightning lane for web slingers because we wanted to do it again one more time before we left because he liked it so much. But it was broken down during our Genie. And with that one, you do not get a multi-experience pass. But you can have a pass for that ride to use at any point later in the day, but not for any other things. And it was like, we're about to leave. I paid money for this thing. I don't have time to do it later in the day. So we kind of like hung out, like trying to hope it would come back alive during our time. It didn't. So we were like, while we're waiting time, we wanted to go do Monsters, Inc. We had never, they don't have a ride like that at Disney World, so I wanted to see what it was about. But we were like waiting. The line was supposed to be 45 minutes. We sat there for about 5 minutes. It didn't move. I was like, dude, I don't think we should waste our last hour in the park standing in a line. Like we could go do a number of things that are going to be better than doing this.
Yeah.
So we went to guest services. And they were just going to refund us for that individual lightning lane for web slingers. And I said, but can I just turn it into a pass for another ride? And they're like, well, let me see. What do you want to do? I said, we want to do Monsters, Inc. So they just switched it over. And it was a pass specifically for Monsters, Inc. So we went to do that with our last little bit of time. So True was like, this is the best day ever. We got to do everything we wanted.
Aw, that's so sweet.
Yeah. And I definitely would just say, like, I told him, I said, it doesn't hurt to ask. Like, even though they're automatically saying, oh, yeah, we'll give you a refund, it didn't hurt for me to say, hey, can you actually make it into this?
Yeah.
And why would Disney say no? They got to keep my $35 for a free Genie ride. It didn't cost them anything to just change that for me.
Right. And a lot of times they want the guests to be happy and have a good experience so they come back. So they're gonna, it's always ask. Always, always.
Always ask. Yeah. So we left the park about like 2:15. And then I still needed to find something for my daughter. One of the things I liked about Disneyland itself, it seemed very good for like young boys who are traditionally into like Cars Land and Avengers and Star Wars. Like there was a lot to cater to that market. Not so much on the princess side though. There is the Fantasyland stuff, but they're also more of the like original rides. So like I don't even know who like Mr. Toad is. I don't understand where that ride is about. Yeah. My son's not really into Snow White or Pinocchio. So I think for like your younger, like princessy kind of girls experience, I think Disney World caters to that a lot better. Especially because you can go have, Cinderella's Royal Castle, go have lunch there, see, you can do all that stuff, which they don't have. So I was like, we got to get her something, but finding princess stuff was not that simple. It's not just everywhere. So as we were walking back through downtown Disney, we stepped in to like the big Disney shop. Yeah. And of course we were able to find her. She loves Rapunzel. So got her a little Rapunzel thing and then walked back and got our bags from the bellhop and went to the airport.
How was the airport? Was it crowded? Did y'all have it? Was it easy?
The first one we flew into was the John Wayne Airport. I think that one's like SNA, I believe. And that one was only about 20 minutes from Disneyland. So that was really nice, but I wanted a late direct flight. And so there were more options of those at LAX. Yeah. So everybody always says, like what I was reading, is like, you've got to be mindful of the traffic because it can just get gridlocked and you don't want that, like where you're really stressed out watching the cars bumper to bumper in front of you trying to get to the airport. But we didn't have any traffic, luckily. But I did factor that in to kind of leaving a little earlier. And then I thought, well, it might be, it's LAX, big airport. It was so simple. Like it took us literally like 2 minutes to go from like the door through security. It was super fast. Yeah. So I didn't need to budget as much time as we did, but I think with airports, it's a gamble. You never know if you're going to need to budget that time. And then maybe the time you don't is the time you need it. And then once we got through TSA, I did need a little bit of extra time because we only did carry-ons. I didn't want to waste time like that first day having to like wait for our bags to come out. I wanted to be able to go immediately. So we had 2 carry-on bags and a stroller. And then we had like little backpacks.
Mm-hmm.
Well, this toy that I bought for my daughter, it was decent size. Where am I going to put this thing? And then, of course, he'd accumulated toys and lightsabers and trying to figure out how am I going to still get it all into this carry-on size luggage. Somehow we managed to do it, but those carry-on bags were like bursting at the seams. So I was glad I had a little time to rearrange all of that as well.
Oh, that's so funny.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so your trip sounds so much fun. I love talking with people about Disneyland. I don't talk to a lot of guests about Disneyland, but I love Disneyland because I love Walt. And so, yeah, it was great hearing your travel tale. But I have to ask you what I ask all my guests. What was your least magical moment in the trip?
My least magical moment in the trip was leaving Oogie Boogie before I was ready to leave. I think that, I would have stayed at maybe circled back to Villains Grove, kind of done some of those things that you're only going to get to do at the party, especially as it got a little bit later. And it seemed like it was like people were leaving.
Yeah.
So I think it would have been even easier to do some of those things. So that was a little bit of a bummer.
Yeah. What was your most magical moment?
My most magical moment was when my son was like, this is the best day ever, because we got to do all of the things that we wanted to on that last day. And it just kind of everything just worked, especially that last day.
There's nothing better than seeing that like joy in your kids because it's just so sweet.
Most definitely. Yeah. So he was really excited. And then he kept saying, but I don't want to go home. I want to stay at Disneyland forever.
Aww.
And I'm like, oh, so those little moments where he was just totally happy and like experiencing it, those really bring some joy to you.
That's so sweet. So is there anything else you want to say about your trip?
I don't think so. I definitely would do the early entry again. I've never done rope drop. That was my first time doing it at all. Yes, right. Because my kids were younger. I was like, I had to prioritize the sleep. Like we had to have that extra hour or two of sleep. I never got to the parks to be like there early. But now that I've done it, I don't know that I will do it any other way again.
I know. It's so great. I love rope dropping. So it's funny because now that I have teenagers, they don't want to rope drop because they want to sleep. And so it's hard. I'm like trying to get people moving. I'm like ready to go and they're all kind of dragging their feet. But it's so worth it. I'm like, once we get there, it's worth it. I promise.
Definitely. And especially like if you are going to go, I'm from Texas. And so going to California, those 2 hours make rope dropping a breeze because your body feels like it's a lot later than that already. You don't feel like you sacrifice sleep to get up and go.
For sure. Yeah. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show. It was so great to talk to you.
So glad to come on. I love it.
Thanks for listening today. I hope you enjoyed this show. As always, this show is sponsored by me, a travel agent with my favorite agency, Trolley Lane Travel, an authorized earmark agency. You can visit me on Instagram and Facebook, just search Disney Travel Tales, or visit the agency at trolleylanetravel.com and read through the bios of all the amazing agents that work there. If you want a free, no obligation personalized quote, check the link in the show notes. We will be back next week with a new show. So until then, this is Jenny, and may all your Disney travel dreams become a reality.